Hi, and welcome to today's masterclass with Skipton Building Society and Mortgage Solutions. I'm Shekina Tuahene, Deputy and Commercial Editor at Mortgage Solutions, and in this session, we'll be discussing the importance of technology and the developments that impact lending decisions, as well as the broker and customer experience. I'm joined by Jayne Roberts, who's dialing in, Interim Head of Mortgage and Lending, and Derek Adams, National Accounts Lead at Skipton Building Society, to speak more about this. Thank you both for joining me. Before I hand over, just to let you know, there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions for Jayne and Derek, feel free to ask them in the box on your screen. I will now pass to Jayne and Derek. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, using your lunchtime learning to come and listen to the masterclass that we have for you today. I'm certainly always conscious the demands in your time as brokers, especially with the market the way it is. So hopefully, if you use this time to grab a sandwich or if you come to listen to us, I really hope it adds value to the roles that you have. As Shekina's mentioned, the title of the masterclass today is People versus Tech. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Derek Adams. I'm National Account Lead for Skipton Building Society for Intermediaries. In essence, I look after the relationships with our clubs and networks. And as I say, the masterclass today is about balancing people versus tech and maintaining the human touch in the digital age. And therefore, I'm delighted that I'm joined today by my colleague, Jayne Roberts. Jayne is Interim Head of Mortgage Lending at Skipton. In essence, her and her team are responsible for the experience you get when you submit a case through to Skipton. So thanks for joining us, Jayne. I know you've had webcam issues, but thanks for joining me this morning.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Yes, thank you, Derek. Really pleased to be here.
Okay. Before we get fully into the discussion about tech and the human touch, I'm going to just briefly talk about the learning objectives. We have sort of 30 minutes with you this morning, and therefore, as Shekina said, we hope to allow some time at the end for we would welcome your questions. But learning objectives. Over the next 30 minutes, we hope to help you to understand how a lender makes lending decisions and how this has changed. No matter which way we do it, whether in the enhancement of tech, a lender does need to satisfy certain factors with regards to a case, and we'll go through how we do this. We also hope you understand how Skipton balances the use of technology with the experience that we have in our underwriting team. Lenders would be foolish not to embrace the technology that's out there to allow us to provide the mortgage advances we provide. But I think what we want to make sure is that you don't lose access to decision makers, which we know you value when dealing with a lender. And finally, as I've said, we want to take the opportunity for you to be able to ask questions, share your views, whether you feel ourselves at Skipton have got that balance right, and maybe just as importantly, whether the marketplace has that balance right to make sure you get the experience that you require as brokers. So, Jayne, moving on then, I thought maybe the starting point in all this is just to understand what are the key factors when we look at a case that we need to satisfy ourselves with when making a lending decision.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Derek. So what does a lender need to need in order to satisfy to make that lending decision? And as we all know, there's various elements to it that come together to paint that whole picture. And starting off with the employment side, and obviously that can be employed or self-employed. And over the years, those types of incomes have now grown in variations. So, we've got various types of income. Some can be basic and have not really changed over the years, but now it's becoming more and more apparent that they are a lot more complex, on the employed side. So usually it is basic income, but obviously we're quite aware there's contractual income in there and different types of variable income. So we're happy to look at all sorts of different type of income. If it can be verified, then that's what we need. But the different types of income, we're happy to consider. There's also the pay rises as well, and customers who have recently changed employer. Again, they're all the things that, you know, we can take into account and consider for that income side. With regard to the self-employed, we've got the sole traders, you've got the limited companies, you've got the LLPs. So again, you know, that side of it has evolved, contractors and consultants. And if you're maybe aware that also, you know, you've got the locums, the medical professions, supply teachers, and those who are on 0-hour contracts, all possibilities of looking at different forms of income in order that we can, you know, try and see how much we can lend. So there's many variations there all around how people are employed. That leads on nicely to the affordability. So we need to satisfy ourselves that there is the ability there to repay and that affordability is demonstrated. So, you know, we have affordability calculations that we carry out in the background, and that's there to give us that comfort. Likewise, there's always the bank statements as well, and that also provides us with that little bit of extra comfort. With regard to first-time buyers, there's the extra there as well, where they've saved for a deposit or they've been paying rent. And obviously, you may well be aware, following the successful launch of the track record product that Skipton launched last year, which was around the first-time buyers paying rent, and that way improving their affordability and being able to borrow up to 100%. There's also the credit profile. So I think we all understand that just having some debt in the background is usually beneficial, and we're all aware of the thin files that some customers can have. But that credit profile does help us recognise that, you know, these customers have had debt and have evidence that they can repay it on time, maintain it, etc. So again, there's some extra reassurance there with the credit profile. And it won't be a mortgage without a property. So we need to make sure that that property is suitable form of security. And again, various different types of valuations that help us determine that that property is the one and suitable for our security, the loan to value. And again, you know, the different types of valuations that can be carried out. I'll touch on later with regard to how it used to be, but the types of valuations that we've got now that can help us in ensuring that property is acceptable. You know, there's numerous ones there. And then, as I said earlier, all of these do come together to give us an overall view of what this mortgage application looks like from the customer perspective, from the affordability side, as well as the property. And they all come together nicely for us to be able to ensure that we are making the right lending decision at the time for that customer.
So Jayne, I'm contractually obliged not to mention how long you've been at Skipton, but paint us a picture then. You talked about what it used to be like. Maybe paint us a picture of what it used to be like and how far we've come so far.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yes, it's become that if I confirm how long I've worked for Skipton and people work out how old I am, so it is something that if we say over 30 years, then that usually covers it off quite well. But yeah, I have got quite a lot of experience, knowledge background with regard to lending throughout Skipton. And how we used to do it is very, very different to how we do it now. I mean, it used to be a very manual process. The applications were in paper. They required inputting. I remember desks covered in reams of paper of bank statements, accounts, pay slips, all that documentation, sorry, you know, was in paper. And the underwriter would be sat there going through each document with a fine-tooth comb, recognising that affordability, manually calculating what the maximum loan amount is, and you know, being able to assess the case as a whole. I mean, just touching on valuation reports, it was a standard valuation. The valuer was required to visit the property in person, compared to now where, you know, we have electronic valuations. But, you know, that was an inconvenience, but, you know, it did delay the case for the customer and the vendor with having an appointment for the valuer to visit. Those reports, you know, consisted of a few pages, and I remember they included photographs of good old Polaroids stapled to the back. The credit searches as well, well, they were looked at in detail, often, you know, printed and looked through each record, looking at those balances and looking at how each payment had been made month on month. And if there was a customer there that had numerous debts, then obviously they did take some time to work through. The underwriters, they had paper pipelines at the end in drawers at the end of the desks, and the paper would come in and it'd be sorted and allocated to these the underwriters, so that, you know, they could go through and look at them. So the administration around all of this was huge. There was checklists as well for documenting notes, and we all knew whose signature was whose, whereas I think these days, you might appreciate, we don't know each other's handwriting anymore. The issuing of the mortgage offers, that entailed printing, it entailed putting them into envelopes, every one of them, you know, for the customer, the broker, the conveyancer, and if there was the old guarantor cases, then again, they were getting a copy as well. So yeah, there was a lot of work involved, and how times have changed, I'm sure you can all appreciate. Just a few stats around that, you know, I mean, going back just 6 years ago, the average application to offer turnaround for Skipton was in the region of 13.5 days. Now you're looking at an average of 9, quoting 2023. So in comparison, it's just short of a working week in reduction for turning those cases round. Valuations, again, 6 years ago, we were using automated valuations, but only for around 19% of our applications, whereas now, you know, that's ticked up to be over a third of our cases, and as well as the volumes. So, you know, around 40,000 applications came in to Skipton around 5 years ago, and that's now up at 45,000 and rising. So vast differences there over really what we could say is a short period of time, but just goes to highlight how technology is racing forward, and here we are in obviously making sure that we keep up with it really, and you know, maintain that presence with the technology to back us up.
Yeah, that really resonates with me as someone who used to be a broker. Certainly spent an awful lot of time with my scanner, and I'm sure there's those on the call that maybe still do a lot of that. But what is nice to see, even in just in the last few years, there's some real tangible benefits by using technology to make the, if you like, the journey shorter, and there's some real gains there to be made. I think certainly for Skipton, we've been very fortunate due to our sort of financial results and our strong financial position. We have been able to enhance and invest in technology, certainly over the last couple of years, probably inspired a lot of it by the COVID period. So Jayne, maybe we can move on now to look at the actual enhancements we've made in technology, even in the last 12 or 18 months. Maybe talk us through some of the enhancements we've made.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So yeah, all around the technology, I mean, I can go as far back as 2008, 2009. Skipton launched our e-mortgage system, which was the mortgage application system for brokers to input the application directly onto it. So it maybe didn't remove the necessity for paper application straight away, because at first it would only work for one or two applicants, customers, but we soon advanced that and got it so it would take up to 4. But there was a time where we had an interim of paper and electronic. But yeah, so the e-mortgage system, that helped remove the need of the application forms. It also brought about the introduction of scanning of documents. So originals were not needed to be posted to us. And again, from an admin point of view, we weren't working through that post and returning documents to customers and having that risk of things going missing. So, you know, that was definitely an advantage there. It also brought about the introduction later on, of the ID and V. So that's where we no longer needed the brokers to share with us their ID and V that they'd collected, the reference numbers and the document types. We were able to link in to a third party and have ID and V per customer automatically verified. So that was a great step forward. This then led on to automated income verification. So careful not to get the ID and V and the AIV and all mixed up, but auto income verification was further an enhancement that goes towards today helping us reach our day one offer goals, which you may have heard about, especially on LinkedIn. You get a lot of great comments on there when we've issued a day one offer. But yeah, the automated income verification definitely helps us in that space. As I touched on earlier about the ABMs, so ABMs carried out on each case now at the point of submission. So every case that gets submitted to Skipton, an ABM is carried out. So it saves the customer waiting on evaluation, the inconvenience of an appointment for the customer or the vendor. And that's replied back with a conference with regard to the valuation figure. And we recognise the different confidence levels and determine whether that ABM is suitable for us. The alternative immediately could be a desktop. So again, we're not moving straight into needing a standard. You know, there is a middle one as well of being that desktop. And more recently, paperless offers. So we're definitely moving away from snail mail. Offers could take 3 days to land with a customer and with brokers and conveyancers. So the step into paperless offers is definitely helped. The customer can see their offer straight away, and they have details via email and how to access it. Brokers, it's uploaded into the mortgage system, so again, brokers can see their offer straight away. And just recently as well, we've worked with our conveyancing panel manager, LMS, who are part of the Skipton group, and we upload the conveyancer's offer document into that portal as well. So definitely moved away from snail mail. So yeah, overall they have had great knock-on effects to the other parts of the process as well. So Skipton is one of the few lenders where we process post within 24 hours of receipt. So any post sent to us today will be looked at tomorrow, and likewise, you know, today as we speak, yesterday's post is being looked at. So that goes towards as well enabling us reach that offer quicker, especially when we're busy with applications. We're not a lender where that post sits in amongst those cases and is dealt with in date order. We always keep on top of that post day in, day out. It is a priority, and that goes towards giving that great service of the application to offer turnaround, because I think we all agree the ultimate aim here is having that issue offered and helping those customers get into that property or remortgage as soon as they can. I touched on LMS being part of the Skipton group. So they are managing the Skipton's conveyancing panel, and within their portal, they have the knowledge hub. So we're also going out there in helping the offer to completion process as well with the technology. So the Mortgage Hub enables conveyancers to access it and ask questions that they may have normally come direct to Skipton and asked. and needed that person to respond to them. But the Knowledge Hub is, as it suggests, it's got all sorts of details in there that can answer conveyancers' queries without that person intervention. And so again, speeds up the process time of responding to a conveyancer have a query. So we like to feel we've got eyes on both ends of the process, from the beginning right through to the completion, end.
Jayne, just to go back to something you touched on, certainly when I'm out and about speaking to brokers, they do ask me about the auto income verification, because I think they're used to sending lots of documents to lenders. Then with our shopping list coming through, either the shopping list is either bare or only has maybe one or two items on it. Can you just touch on briefly how the auto income verification works for ourselves, where we don't need a payslip or a bank statement from a broker?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we need to establish if an AVM can be done. So the AVM goes off. At the same time, the various details that's input onto the mortgage system with regard to income is sent off again to a third party, and that response is received back instantly, confirming to us whether auto income verification is acceptable, the confidence factor around that, which accumulates to be numerous different elements, but overall, we have a range where we've agreed that we're happy to accept. So the AIV, it comes back, it advises yes or no, and we can move forward. What happens then behind the scenes is that an email then will be forwarded on to the broker to confirm there isn't a shopping list. So you may well receive the same kind of email that you do when there are some outstanding items required, but just look closely at that document, because you will find that there is actually no list there, as no documents are received. So that's how you'll find, from a broker point of view, it's worth waiting to get that communication before you start uploading and scanning those documents, because it could actually save you some time there.
Okay, appreciate you clarifying, Jayne. So you've talked about the technology that we've invested in and we've enhanced. What benefits are we seeing from that income, the technology being applied?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. It's not about. I think people's minds instantly go to, okay, let's reduce our resource, let's move our resource elsewhere, and it's really not about that. What it is about is that the technology is enabling us to enhance our decision making. It's helping us look at those cases quickly and pull out those cases that can have a quick decision, a light human touch. But what it does then mean is that the resource can be signposted for more complex cases that need more time, that need that human touch, that need that underwriter to really sit down with it, give the broker a call, have that discussion. What is this scenario? What's the ins and outs of it? Help me understand more, so that we can make sure that we can say a yes, and help with processing that case forward. It's those common sense decisions that we really do pride ourselves on, and also that connection with the broker, and it all comes down to the human touch. So the technology just helps us streamline some of the cases that don't need that, but likewise enable us to give those that do a lot more as and when it's required.
And before you touch on day one offers, Jayne, certainly from me, when I'm in the building, it seems to me that the underwriting team, they get, if you like, the satisfaction from spending time on the complex cases, and that those non-complex cases touch aside. Is that a fair view on that?
Yeah, we do regard them as being standard cases and complex cases, and each underwriter fulfills the role. So some of our underwriters are more than happy to help those straightforward ones go straight through, and that really gives them a great job satisfaction when they go home on an evening and they've issued so many offers. That's absolutely fantastic. Likewise, we've got other underwriters who really do want to get into the nitty-gritty of the cases, looking at those details, and and having those phone calls and then applying that human touch and getting to understand, you know, more about the case, so that again they can get that through to offer. And sometimes, you know, that offer can be issued straight away. Other times it does take a few more days and a few more documents and some conversations. But overall, they're all aiming at the same result, which is how can we say yes, and how can we let the customer have their offer, and you know, as soon as possible.
And last year we were able to prove the concept of a day one offer. So talk to us about day one offers.
Yeah, they're our creme de creme, I have to say. They're quite golden, and if you use LinkedIn often and visit LinkedIn, you'll see that we get some great feedback and comments on the back of, wow, I've just received my offer, I submitted it 2 hours ago, and things like that. So they're the ones that we're saying, you know, they are simple, straight through, don't touch the sides. We've been able to utilise technology all the way through. They've had a successful AVM, the automated ID&V has come through the match. The automated income verification has also confirmed a match. So we don't need any documentation from the broker or the customer. And that case just needs a light touch, establish the system hasn't flagged up anything that we need to look into in any more detail. Great, let's go, let's issue that offer. So these cases, they're imperative for our underwriters each day. You know, we check that they're looked at. So, for example, cases received today that have fallen into that day one bucket will be looked at as we speak throughout the course of this afternoon. And then, you know, we'll have other underwriters looking at those other cases as well. So it really is a service. It's really golden, I believe, and it highlights other opportunities where, you know, technology has really helped us. It speeds up the process, but also has given us more time to spend on those that need it. There can be times where an underwriter does raise a query on one case that can result in a day one offer, but again, they pick up that phone, they have that chat, and the broker can probably enlighten them to some details, and it just means, thank you very much, here we go, issued the offer, just needed to have that conversation. And this is why we do encourage the underwriters to do that in all cases. And you know, it's just I mean, to highlight, in 2023 we did, you know, over 1,150 day one offers, to be precise, and our aim is to increase that further this year. We're already looking at that process. Is there anything else we can do there? You know, can we attract more coming through the auto income verification? You know, just to try and utilise that further and get those numbers up. So yeah, it's a great impact, and we're very much aware of that when the broker and the customer receive that notification to say, you know, the offer's being issued. It really is a great wow experience.
We've got a few examples. As Jayne mentioned, it's not just the low loan to value. There's 2 or 3 examples on the screen that you can see, where you can see what time the case was submitted, when it was underwritten, and when it was offered. And we get some great feedback with regards to, you know, a broker might even phone me up and getting used to this, think they've got someone else's offer in e-mortgages when actually it's their offer that was submitted earlier in the day. As Jayne's mentioned, the middle one there, where they're repaying help to buy. We did need some information on the help to buy requirement, but we also needed the income details or income evidence for applicant 2. And yet that case was picked up late afternoon, underwritten very early the next morning, and offered the next day. So hopefully give you some examples there of, Jayne's talked about a wow factor, but for me as well, the extra service we can provide is then if the cases that don't touch the sides don't, it frees up underwriters then to give a really good service for those complex cases. Underwriters picking up the phone, speaking to a broker and saying, you know, I've got your case here. There is a bit complex. I'm satisfied with that. If you can get me this document, that document, then I'll get that offer for you as well. So I think that nice balance between tech and the human touch means that both the non-complex and the complex cases are getting a better experience because of the balance that we perhaps have. The next slide just summarises some of the service stats, if you like, from last year. As Jayne's mentioned, ID&V, auto income verification, and AVM allows us to offer day one mortgage offers, and there was, as James mentioned, there's over 1,100 cases where we were able to do that. You can also see that our app to underwriting start 2.8 days, and the app to offer 9 days. And although we've talked about day one offers, you can also see that 29% of our offers are actually issued within 5 days. 32% of apps used an ABM. And I just want to touch on as well that what we don't want to lose in the human touch is we're still a lender that you can phone and talk to about your case or talk about a new inquiry. We haven't shown it there, but we'd also suggest that we have a very good web chat proposition as well. That's an example where technology is there, but it's the human touch. I had a broker gave me a reasonably complicated query, and I said to them, you know what, that case would have been perfect for our web chat team. And they said, oh, I would have had trouble explaining it. Your robot wouldn't have picked it up. And I had to point out the fact that we have our most experienced people on web chat, because we know that if you're using web chat, you may want a transcript to file away to prove that we did say we would maybe consider that case or look at that case as well. So there's a good example where good technology, but it still needs that human touch at the other side. And just on the web chat, we are a lender that you can not only go to web chat for your new inquiries, but they'll happily give you a case update on the cases that are already with us. And I think that just enhances the proposition that we have to make your life easier as a broker. Our time's pressing on, Jayne, so I just wanted to talk briefly, what's next for Skipton on the basis that, we've had this technology now for a little while. Where do we go next with this?
Yeah, so definitely, and there's definitely room for improvement. And we want to streamline. We want to get these processes that are just straight through, and we want to make sure that we are looking at the right ones, and obviously encouraging more brokers to use us and give us the opportunity of saying yes. So the opportunities, they go wider than the process and service, because we're also looking at ideas of how we help customers move into homes and provide alternatives which might not be suitable for all, but will help some. And the track record was a true example of that. It wasn't going to help everybody, but it helped a good number of people. And that's where Skipton's wanting to look at those different scenarios and where can we help further, and what else can we do. So whether that's process, whether it's service, whether it's policy, all those are all up for being reviewed, revisited, just to see what else we can look at. So as I've already touched on, we are looking at the day one process. Are we capturing the right cases in that area? Can we increase the number of day one offers that we issue, so that we have more time to look at those complex cases, and continue as well with those calls to the brokers, receiving the regular feedback, confirming how brokers really appreciate that underwriter calling them to discuss the case and iron out any queries, really does give us the confidence that we need to continue with that. And at the end of the day, I think we all agree it's a lot better than email tennis, and I think the discussion is a lot more valuable as well.
Appreciate that, Jayne. Oh, go on.
Sorry. I was just going to put out a question there, Derek, just to the brokers, and I would just be interested in their thoughts. But around web chat, so you've touched on web chat there, Derek, and how useful it can be. And would that be alternative form of communication for our underwriters to contact brokers? Maybe it's only appropriate for certain styles, or should I say certain types of brokers, depending on the size of your office and things like that. But just something that we might be considering, and we'll be interested on feedback on that.
It's a good point, because it's a good point, because perhaps we are a lender that we try and contact a broker, but they're what if the broker's in typically in an appointment, so maybe some other way of being able to communicate with one another with regards to the case. And that leads me quite nicely on, because we've eaten into a little bit the questions time, but we appreciate your attention over the last 30 minutes. Hopefully we've painted a picture of the balance that we're trying to strike by enhancing the technology that's out there, but without losing the human touch that you value as brokers. So happy to take any questions, any thoughts, either whether the industry itself has got the balance right, whether there's more we could be doing at Skipton. So I'll probably hand it over now to see what questions you have for us, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for giving us a bit of an insight into the inner workings of how some of the decisions are made and how technology is used to support that. So like you said, we will be going on to the questions now. We do have a couple that have come through. So firstly, what proportion of applications can you verify via the auto income verification tool? And this is for employed income only, or can it verify self-employed income as well? So who wants to take that one?
I'm going to be the good colleague here and pass that over to Jayne.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. Yeah, no, really good question. And so overall, the income verification is going back to the bank account to look for specific credits. So it works across all cases. We're looking around 20-25%. Where we get a match and it comes through. We can also have the scenario where one customer, so you can have a joint application, you can have one customer that matches with AIV and then the other one doesn't. So again, just refer back to that shopping list to determine which one it is that we do need some documents for if we do. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
And at the moment it is, just to clarify, it is only employed we can do that for. So yes, self-employed, we would still need to evidence that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Derek.
Thank you. And you did mention this sort of 1100 cases that went through day one office, which I'm guessing some of that was down to the light touch process. So we have another question, which is what proportion of cases can be decisioned with a light touch, which is going through to decision versus those that need more of a human touch on that. And Derek, do you want to take that one?
Again, Jayne's probably better placed, but I think it's fair to say that at the moment, as Jayne's mentioned in the presentation, there are certain factors or limits that need to be ticked. So we would need not to require a physical valuation on a desktop. It would need to have that income found to give us the confidence factor that we don't need a payslip or a bank statement. So certainly we've proved the capability of day one offers last year, and I think we want to turn the dial up, as Jayne's mentioned, so that more and more of those cases get captured. And whether we get that confidence from seeing, we're starting to obviously see, or we'll be monitoring the quality of those cases that I would call tech cases where they've had the light touch. And therefore, yes, our aim over the next few years is to turn up that dial so that more and more of those cases get that light touch and give us the confidence that we require, that we don't need to do too much in those cases. So yeah, certainly our objective is to turn up the dial on those types of cases.
Yeah, of course. And Jayne, do you want to add to that, or?
No, totally agree with Derek there. It is something that we are conscious of in dialing up. So, you know, as much as, you know, I could say 10% come through as a day one case, but does that mean that they go straight through to offer? Because obviously, you know, there's a complex of the application, the scenario. So it is hard to determine exactly how many go through, but I think the number of offers that, you know, we confirm we've issued highlights that obviously, you know, there's some great business out there that does just zip through, and this is why, you know, we need to make sure that that process is correct and that we do capture the right ones so that we can put more emphasis on those.
Of course, thank you. And we do have another question asking, is there a rule of thumb for the loan to value, I'm guessing a bracket it comes under, for automated valuation models and auto income verification? Or is there a cap or a limit for that?
With regard to AVMs, that's up to 85%, but it does depend on the confidence factor that comes back. So we're happy to carry them out on those loan to values, but sometimes the confidence factor doesn't always fall into the acceptable categories. And similar with AIVs. AIVs are carried out on all cases. As Derek's touched on, from an employed point of view, but you know, sometimes they come back as a true match, and sometimes they don't. So again, it just depends what the confidence factor is that's displayed back with the response.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, for the broker experience, Shekina, certainly all of our cases, as soon as the button's pressed on e-mortgages, the valuation is the first thing that's triggered. So even if we do need to go to do a physical valuation, that can quite often be well on its way to being organised before the case even gets to us. So yeah, on touch of the button, that's the valuation request, whatever that valuation would be, is one of the first things that's done.
Yeah, of course. And speaking a little bit more generally about the attitude towards tech and the developments that it can do or provide, what reassurance would you give to advisors who understand the benefits and understand the processes, but still just for whatever reason prefer a hands-on approach? So Derek, I'll come to you with that one.
Yeah, and I briefly touched on the call centre we've got. We've got BDMs out in the field. We've got the web chat team. I didn't mention it, but we've got a social media team as well. So my view is, it's not that you have an avenue you prefer to use. It might be each case is different. One case you might just want a yes or no from us. You'd give us a call. Another case could be really complex, and you would want to go on to web chat and be able to talk to someone and get that transcript that I mentioned earlier. So for me, my view is there's a number of different avenues for dealing with this. You might not have a preferred one. You might just use a different one depending on the scenario that you've got. Sometimes you just might need to speak to a BDM this particular day to champion a case that you've got, because again, the BDMs can go straight to an underwriter and get a pre-approval of a case. So my view is the tech should be there to take away all the mundane stuff that people don't want to do. Then it frees everyone up to do the things that they want to do. So underwriters want to talk to people about complex cases. Brokers want their time freed up to talk to their customers rather than stand next to a scanner. You know, and the tech for me is there just to make the journey, if you like, easier for everyone.
Thank you. And Jayne, I'll put this question to you. Obviously, it is a lot about the broker experience, but how much of this technical development is being driven by consumer demands?
Sorry, could you just repeat that question again?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just asking how much of the tech development is being driven by consumer demand or wants?
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. By consumer and demand, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely, you know, and this is why, you know, we're here, and this is why Derek and I are really interested in knowing, you know, share ideas between ourselves, and give us feedback and updates, and are we on the mark, are we off the mark, and things like that. So a lot of it is driven by feedback, as well as demand, in that, you know, we obviously want to do business, we obviously want to do it very efficiently. We've got the customer at the heart of everything that we do, and, you know, we want to say yes. And all of our decisions with regard to the future is based on how can we do that, and how can we do it successfully. So definitely a mixture, but like I say, you know, we love the feedback, we love the two-way communication that, you know, we all share, so that, you know, we can go forward with those ideas and consider them further. So yeah, definitely feedback as well.
Hopefully it comes across, Shekina, that I think we recognise that the experience the broker can give their customer is heavily reliant on the experience that they get from the lender that they trust to process their application. So yeah, these are all things that we want to make the journey smoother, less frustration, open communication to understand, you know, haven't heard anything, what's happened to my case, where is it? So that's the kind of frustrations that we know brokers will have, just not knowing sometimes where their case is.
And actually, speaking a little bit about not knowing where the case is, how can advisors be reassured that they won't lose control over the process by the sort of ramping up of technology? So what processes can be in place? I know you did mention the web chat and the hotline that is still there. So what other means you have to keep them being comfortable about that? Yeah,
certainly the feedback I get, because I look after our clubs and networks, is sometimes we don't shout about it enough, but we're not a lender to pass you on to a portal. You know, the various sort of avenues I've mentioned, phone, web chat, social media, they're all capable of giving you an update on the case, depending on, you know, and certainly I sat with the web chat team a few weeks ago, and I was really surprised how many of the web chats were more about case updates rather than the new inquiries. I think brokers, you know, if they've got a period of time, they'll quickly nip onto web chat and just ask for a progress report on the case, and our web chat people will be happily provide that to them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And that is all that we have time for. So thank you both for that presentation, giving us a bit of an insight, and I hope that is useful to the brokers who are watching. Any questions that do come through, or any queries that sort of weren't specific to this, we'll pass on the details and they'll be answered after the session, and also be a recording of the session afterwards, so anyone can catch up and watch back. So thank you very much. Thank you both, Derek and Jayne, for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Have a good rest of the day. Goodbye.